He had died in the most pathetic way possible, choking on cold pizza at 2 in the morning. And yet, instead of darkness, he opened his eyes to a world where biology dictated everything: omegas, betas, alphas. The cruel joke? He wasn't even the protagonist. Ethan Reed, 22, once an ordinary college dropout in Chicago, now found himself shoved into the body of a forgettable side character from a novel he had drunkenly skimmed years ago. In that book, this Omega was destined for heartbreak, used, discarded, fading into the background while the alpha hero rode off into his happily ever after. But Ethan refused to play by those rules. The city around him pulsed with the rhythm of the Omegaverse. Alphas exuding authority, betas blending in, omegas trying to carve out a place without being owned. Chicago's skyline loomed, modern and merciless, neon cutting across the humid night air. It wasn't just a setting. It was a battlefield. Ethan's first encounter with the Alpha was pure cinematic cruelty. Caleb Hayes, the Alpha, tall, broad-shouldered, exuding a power that made the air tighten. Caleb was everything the novels glorified and Ethan despised. He had the kind of face that belonged on billboards. Aristocratic lines, stormy blue eyes that could dismantle a person's defenses in seconds. Women and men alike stole glances when he walked by. And Ethan knew, because he remembered, that Caleb would never spare more than a condescending glance for an Omega like him. Except fate, or whatever twisted force had dumped him here, had other plans. The night they met, Ethan was cornered in a downtown alley after defending another Omega from 3 aggressive alphas. He had acted without thinking, words laced with the bitterness of someone who had lived 2 lives and had nothing left to lose. "Step back," Ethan snapped, hazel eyes hard. "Unless you want me to tear your inflated egos apart." The trio laughed. Omegas weren't threats. Omegas were soft, submissive, designed to be owned. But before fists flew, Caleb appeared, his presence enough to silence the street. "What the hell are you doing?" Caleb's voice was sharp, a blade cutting through the night. The alphas muttered apologies, retreating like children caught misbehaving. Ethan should have been relieved. Instead, he turned on Caleb with unfiltered rage. "I didn't need your rescue," he spat. "I'm not some fragile pet waiting for an alpha savior." For the first time, Caleb looked startled, and maybe, just maybe, intrigued. Ethan couldn't forget the weight of Caleb's gaze after that night. It haunted him through the days he tried to navigate this borrowed life. Working at a tiny bookstore near the university district, keeping his head down, pretending he didn't care. But he cared. Because every time Caleb appeared, whether it was to check in or to corner him with questions, Ethan felt the world shift. Their exchanges were battles, words like swords clashing, neither willing to yield. "Why do you always pick fights with me?" Caleb demanded one evening, cornering him between shelves of worn novels. "Because you think the world belongs to you," Ethan shot back, chest heaving. "And I refuse to kneel." Caleb's jaw clenched. Yet instead of anger, there was fascination in his eyes, like Ethan was the first Omega who had ever dared to defy him. The tension was unbearable. Every accidental brush of hands, every stolen glance, every sharp exchange-ite all burned, leaving Ethan restless. He hated it. He craved it. But beneath it all, Ethan knew the cruel truth. The novel hadn't been written for him. Caleb's destined mate was someone else. A sweet, submissive Omega who fit the narrative. Ethan was just a stepping stone, a character to be discarded, unless he rewrote the story himself. The turning point came during the autumn festival on the edge of the city. Lanterns glowed against the night, laughter filling the crisp air. Ethan had promised himself he would avoid Caleb, but fate was merciless. He saw Caleb standing near the river, the golden lights casting shadows across his strong features. Their eyes met. "You're avoiding me?" Caleb said softly, a rare vulnerability in his tone. Ethan scoffed. "You're imagining things." "Am I?" Caleb stepped closer. "Every time I get near you, you run. Every time I try to understand you, you push me away." Ethan's chest tightened. The truth clawed at his throat. He was terrified. Terrified of caring. Terrified of being hurt the way the novel promised. I'm not who you think I am, Ethan whispered. Then let me find out who you are, Caleb replied. For the first time, Ethan saw the alpha not as a symbol of dominance, but as a man flawed, searching, lonely. The realization shook him. And when Caleb's hand brushed his, Ethan didn't pull away. The world blurred. The festival's laughter faded. It was just them, suspended in a fragile, stolen moment that felt both impossible and inevitable. But reality was merciless, because destiny, the story he remembered, was still waiting to tear them apart. The city didn't forgive. Rumors spread like wildfire. Caleb, the untouchable alpha, and Ethan, the rebellious Omega who refused to play by the rules. Whispers turned into threats. Other alphas challenged Caleb. Betas mocked Ethan. And the destined Omega, the one Caleb was supposed to choose, watched with quiet fury. You're playing a dangerous game, Ethan's friend warned, a fellow Omega who worked at the bookstore. Maybe, Ethan admitted, staring at his reflection in the shop window. But for once in my life I want to live. Not as a side character. Not as someone disposable. I want to fight for my own ending. And so, with every glance, every brush of fingers, every argument that melted into silence, Ethan made his choice. He would not fade. He would not be forgotten. He would stand against the script of fate itself and make Caleb see him, not as a fragile Omega, but as the only one who could rewrite the story. Ethan didn't realize he was trembling until Caleb's arms wrapped around him one stormy night. Rain lashed against the bookstore windows, the city howling with autumn winds. You're shaking? Caleb murmured, pulling him close. Don't act like you care, Ethan whispered, his voice breaking. You'll leave. They always leave. Caleb's grip tightened. Not me. Not with you. Ethan's heart stuttered. For the first time, hope flared raw, dangerous, impossible. But maybe impossible was exactly what he needed. The storm outside had finally broken, but inside Ethan's chest, chaos reigned. For weeks, he had lived in denial, convincing himself that Caleb's words were nothing more than fleeting comfort. Yet every glance, every brush of skin, every whispered promise carved into his heart. But the novel still hung over him like a noose. Caleb wasn't his to claim. The destined Omega, the one written to stand at Caleb's side, had begun making her move. And the city, ever cruel, watched like vultures. The confrontation happened on a night when the air was thick with tension. Ethan had gone to the bookstore late, needing the quiet. He was restocking shelves when the bell above the door chimed. It wasn't Caleb. It was her. Lila Monroe. Sweet-faced, gentle-eyed, the Omega every story adored. She was soft where Ethan was sharp, compliant where he was defiant. In the book, she was the right choice. You should leave him, she said simply, standing in the aisle like a specter. Ethan stiffened. Excuse me, Caleb, she continued, her voice calm but unyielding. He's meant for me. You know it. Everyone knows it. You're a distraction. Nothing more. The words sliced deep, not because they were cruel, but because they echoed the fate Ethan had been running from. But he wasn't the same man anymore. Funny, Ethan replied, forcing a bitter laugh. I thought fate was just a word people use when they're too afraid to fight for what they want. Her lips trembled. For the first time, Ethan saw it, fear behind her perfect image. She wasn't fighting for Caleb out of love. She was fighting because she had been told the world owed her that ending. I won't let you ruin this, she whispered. Ethan met her gaze, steady. Then you'll have to try harder. The storm escalated in the days that followed. Rumors spread like wildfire. Ethan had seduced Caleb, manipulated him, broken the natural order. Omegas whispered behind his back. Betas looked at him with pity. Alphas challenged him with their stares. And Caleb? He stood between Ethan and the world, unflinching. When an alpha cornered Ethan outside the bookstore, Caleb's hand was on the man's throat before he could blink. You want to touch him? Caleb's voice was lethal. You go through me first. The message was clear, but Ethan wasn't naive. Every battle Caleb fought for him only drew more enemies. The city was watching. The hierarchy was watching. And Destiny, that cruel bastard, wasn't done yet. The breaking point came during the annual Alpha Council gathering. Caleb, as one of the most influential young alphas, was expected to attend with his mate. Everyone assumed he would appear with Lila. Instead, he walked in with Ethan. The room erupted. Whispers, gasps, disbelief, and then outrage. An elder alpha stood, his voice booming. "This is an insult to our traditions. An Omega like him, rebellious, unbound, unfit, cannot stand at your side." Ethan felt the weight of 100 eyes burning into him. His hands shook. This was the script. This was where he would be humiliated, cast aside, erased. But before he could speak, Caleb's voice cut through the chaos. "Enough!" The room silenced. Caleb's blue eyes blazed as he tightened his hold on Ethan's hand. "You want to talk about tradition? Tradition has chained us for too long. I don't care what story you think I'm supposed to live. This is the one I choose." And then, before the entire council, Caleb pulled Ethan close and kissed him. The world exploded. Ethan's heart nearly gave out in his chest, the taste of rain and fire on his lips. Every fear, every doubt, every desperate wish collapsed into that one moment. It wasn't fate. It was choice. Their choice. The aftermath was brutal. Caleb was stripped of privileges, challenged at every turn. Ethan became a target, scorned and ridiculed. But neither wavered. Nights turned into stolen hours, where they clung to each other in the shadows of Caleb's loft, whispering truths too fragile for the world to hear. "I used to think I was nothing more than a side character," Ethan confessed one night, his head resting against Caleb's chest. Caleb kissed his hair. "You're the only one who ever made me feel alive. Even if the world hates us?" Ethan asked. Caleb's hand cupped his face, tilting it up until their eyes met. "Then let the world burn." But the world didn't burn. It bent. Slowly, painfully, grudgingly, it bent. Because no matter how many challenged them, Caleb never faltered. And Ethan, sharp-tongued, unyielding, Ethan refused to break. And little by little, people began to see that love wasn't weakness, that Omegas weren't fragile things to be owned, that perhaps fate wasn't written in stone after all. Years later, the bookstore still stood, tucked between glass towers and neon lights. Ethan ran it with quiet pride, the scent of paper and ink filling the air. The door chimed. Caleb stepped inside, taller, older, his presence still commanding. But his eyes softened the moment they found Ethan. "You're late," Ethan teased, though his smile betrayed him. Caleb kissed him right there among the shelves. Traffic. It was simple, ordinary, and perfect, because Ethan had won. He had rewritten the story, not as a side character, not as someone disposable, but as the Omega who defied fate and conquered the Alpha's heart. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.